Let's make some copycat White Castle sliders. Starting with 3 pounds of ground beef, 2 packets of 1 ounce French onion soup mix. I am doubling this recipe, so cut this in half if you just want one batch, which will make about 24 sliders. 1 teaspoon of black pepper. I'm using a half teaspoon measure, so I'm going to put 2 in. Here I have some plain panko breadcrumbs, and we're going to do 2/3 a cup. 2 eggs. Now I did accidentally miss a step here, so I mixed this all in, and then I realized that I forgot to put 4 tablespoons of water. So after I give this a good mix, wash my hands a few times, I go back and I add those 4 tablespoons of water. This is basically the same process as if you're making meatballs or meatloaf, just with a different flavor profile. So it's rather simple and easy to do. Always make sure you're washing your hands really good when you're using raw meat like this. So now I'm just going back and adding those 4 tablespoons of water. Doesn't matter the temperature. And then we're just going to give that a real good mix again. So if you didn't forget this step, you only have to mix it once. I just am mixing it a second time because I forgot to add the water in the first round. Now you're going to want to grab your baking sheets and line them with parchment paper. I really suggest you line them with the parchment paper because this does get really greasy and it's much easier to handle and move when you can grab it by the parchment paper. If you are doing a double batch like I am, you're going to need 2 baking trays lined with parchment paper, and if you are just doing a single batch, you're only going to need 1. This will make 24 sliders per each pan. The recipe for this will be in the description box. So now we're going to grab our ground beef here, and we are going to place it on our tray, and we are going to want to push this out to be as thin as possible because burgers, when you cook them, I'm sure you're aware of this, but they puff up a bit. So one of the things we're going to do to prevent these from puffing up as much as we can is push them as flat as we can. Now usually I'll take 2 pieces of parchment paper, line one on top and one on the bottom, and use a rolling pin, but then you don't get like the clean rectangle shape, and it's more complicated to lay them out on your sliders. So it is a little easier, I found this time, that I just pushed it all out on the baking sheet as I'm doing here. Also, if you don't have a White Castle near you, you might not know why we want them to be this thin, but White Castle is known for a very thin burger. So we are trying to achieve that here, and I'm going to show you in a minute the next way that we can prevent them from puffing up. My husband loves White Castle burgers, and he was so excited when I found this recipe a few years ago, and I've been making it ever since because it's such a hit in my house. I like to use this as like a freezer meal, like for lunch or whatever, whenever we're hungry, or even if we just want like a midnight snack, just pop 2 out of the freezer or however many you want. You can wrap them in paper towel, pop them in the microwave for like, I think it's like a minute or 2. I haven't eaten them from frozen yet this time around from this batch. Or you can, even if you don't like to use the microwave, you can pop them in the oven, I'm sure. Just keep them at a low temperature, and I would thaw them out before putting them in the oven probably. Here is our pan here. Right, now we're moving on to our next method. I'm not going all the way through here, I'm just like pushing down a bit. And we're just gonna line it out to where we want our sliders to be. These lines are not gonna stay, so that's just more to keep it flat. Now we're gonna go the opposite way, again to like slider size. Now this next step is crucial to them staying flat. You're gonna wanna take something that you can make a few holes in each one. You're gonna need 5 holes in each one, and you are gonna go all the way down this time. And you're gonna do this for each slider patty that you marked out. Now our burgers are ready for the oven. You're gonna put these in at 400 degrees for 10 minutes, 400 degrees Fahrenheit. Now you're gonna wanna grab your slider rolls. At my grocery store, they sell these King Arthur slider rolls, which are absolutely perfect for these White Castle sliders. They give it like the same flavor profile. If you don't have these buns in a grocery store near you, you're gonna wanna use just like any type of dinner roll that has like that buttery taste. And you can also make homemade. I was gonna make homemade ones, and then my husband decided to make it easy on me and surprise me by getting these, even though I told him not to, because I really wanted to make them from scratch this time. But I'm pregnant and he's trying to make my life a little easier, so I appreciate that. They are a little pricey though when you're getting 4 packs of them. As you can see here, our first batch has already made it out of the oven and has been made into the Copycat White Castle sliders. So now we're working on our second batch here. And we do end up getting 48 total rolls perfectly, none being short. Now my husband's coming over and he's going to make some fries to go with this. We're gonna have some waffle fries, and these end up being delicious. This whole meal, we just love this meal so much. I'm cutting this evenly in half to where that would perfectly fit our buns, and we're just gonna take off the top layer of our buns and slide a whole burger patty right on top. The whole thing, just to make it easier without cutting it first. Now we're gonna take our cheese. I have yellow American cheese here from the deli. And 5 slices of cheese fit on here perfectly with Now I am grabbing our pickles. You're gonna want a dill pickle chip if you want to copy this recipe pretty much exactly. I have used bread and butter before. Use whatever you prefer. Whatever brand, it doesn't matter what brand you use, just whatever you like. Also put as many pickles as you want. If you like more pickles than what I'm putting, load it up. If you don't like pickles, you can leave them out, however you want them. And that's it, they're done. So now you're just gonna put your top of your buns back on there, and you are going to now cut them into individual sliders, as I'm doing here. We got all 48 done and ready to be wrapped up and put in the freezer. But first I'm going to take what we are going to eat for dinner and pop them on a tray here. We don't end up eating all these, but I put the ones that we didn't finish in the fridge, and we end up having that for lunch the following day. You don't have to put these on a baking sheet, you can just eat them how they are, but the warmth from the burger was not quite enough to melt the cheese, and I want to melt the cheese. So what I'm doing is just putting them at the lowest setting in my oven and just letting that cheese melt and letting them stay warm while we wait to eat dinner. I do end up putting some fries on here as well to keep warm. And there it is. Doesn't that look so good? It's making me want some more right now. So now we're gonna get back to wrapping these. I wrote White Castle burgers on here, so I know what they are. I know what they look like anyways when you pull them out of the freezer, but it's a good habit to have to write what it is on the bag, because sometimes after everything's been sitting in the freezer for a while, things start to look the same and you don't know what it is. These are pretty, you can tell what they are, but nine sliders end up fitting in this gallon-sized freezer bag perfectly. And these are just easy to you pop open the bag, break one off if they're stuck together, or just pull one out, or however many you want, and then warm them up, and just make sure when you reseal your bag, you're pushing all the air out and sealing it fully so they don't get freezer burn. But if I've also packaged these in sandwich size baggies if you want to have them personal size with 2 or 3 in there for easy grab and go. If you do that, I would suggest putting it inside a freezer safe gallon size Ziploc bag as well, to make sure that they aren't getting freezer burn, because you want to make sure that they are in a freezer safe bag. Now our first bag is ready for the freezer. know, it's always a nice feeling to me when I need an extra bag when I didn't think I was going to. So right here, I'm just writing White Castle burgers again, and we are going to get this last baggie packed up. And we end up getting 4 full bags of 9 left over for the freezer. And I don't know about you, but it makes me so happy to be able to just put some pre-made meals into the freezer that we can just grab and go whenever we want. And here I stopped for my family was doing a mealtime prayer, so I decided to join in with them. I told them to go ahead and eat without me, and I'll join them when I'm done here. I only had a few more things to do. Going back to the freezer meals, we are going to be doing a lot of freezer meals coming up. I have breakfast freezer meals planned where we're going to be doing a bunch of breakfast sandwiches, some breakfast pizza, which my family loves so much. I'm excited to get those in the freezer. I also want to get a bunch of dinner freezer meals ready because I have days where I just don't feel good and I don't feel like cooking, and it's really nice to just pull out a freezer meal and just pop it in the oven and you're ready to go. So we're going to get that going, and I want to pack my goal is to pack my freezer before this baby comes. I hope you have a blessed day.